Hello, hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. It is Season 2, Episode 69. It's March 10th, 2023. Today's episode is titled Demon Slaying Mega Sword from Japan. And we've already selected the 11 articles. Briefly, the rundown is a YouTuber has to pay $40,000 in attorney's fees for, quote, a daft reverse censorship lawsuit. The shift to EVs is slowly killing off AM radio. We are trying to figure out what that really means. The first map of an insect brain could shed light on thinking and might actually be directly matched to some humans. A 1600-year-old demon-slaying Megasword has been unearthed in Japan. Nintendo's Mario-themed Switch is now available and comes with a free game. Some goober decided that they were going to try and implant fake medical devices in people for $16,000 a shot. Scientists are figuring out if they can teach an AI how to read human minds. See insect brain for application. There's a new gadget called, I think it's pronounced Labodet or Labodet Magsafe ring. You're not going to believe the price of this thing, and that's why I included it. There is an email that came out from the lawsuit against Elon Musk regarding his tweet about how he should probably go out and touch grass instead of getting bent out of shape. And Roku, the icing on the cake tonight, is $487 million of its cash were tied up in failed Silicon Valley Bank. Let's get into today's news. Hey, look at that. My camera worked today. I figured out what the problem was with that. But let's just say that when you tell the camera to remain in the state that it was last seen in, OBS leaves it there. When you lock it down, it stays where it is. Even if it's on, when you switch to a different scene, it actually locks it in the off state. So I have to unlock it and lock it. Hot mess coming through. So, idiosyncrasies of OBS. This is, by the way, how the sausage is made, folks. You might hear me say that pretty much every episode because our production value is so high. I want to be transparent with you all. Anyway, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and the visualizer up there should be working. You want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
That's the AI that kind of keeps the mayor of ohmTown in check. Every once in a while throws an error code or maybe a smiley face and helps out with the goings on here in ohmTown, but is not. I just want to kind of separate the AI from the search engine there in ohmTown.com because it might be acting a little quirky lately. I've been putting it through its paces and, well, it doesn't like me right now. But if you go over to ohmTown.com, you'll see the site is working just fine, and you have all of these options along the side. That's the buddy bar. And this here is where all of the menu options are for the shows and the channels here in ohmTown.com. And all of our news gets funneled into these things, so go and check it out. As usual, you can go to ohmTown.showbot.tv and vote on articles that you might find interesting. Okay. You want to just get into the news? Has there anything, did you see anything really, really exciting in your travels of ohmTown today?
No, I'm sorry I didn't.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird, busy Friday. It's Friday here in ohmTown. For those of you who are elsewhere, it might be Saturday. because time travel is real on Earth, and ohmTown is, well, we're just kind of stuck in the middle everywhere. At any rate, I'm rambling. Let's get into today's articles. The very first article is in the Word in Law. A YouTuber must pay $40,000 in attorney fees for daft. This is the title of it. Daft reverse censorship suit. Try to say that really fast. Reverse censorship suit.
Say it 5 times.
No. She sells seashells by the censorship suit. Forget it. My S's are starting to get hot, so I know that I'm in trouble here. Anyway, a YouTuber, Marshall Daniels, who has posted far-right leaning videos under the name Young Pharaoh since 2015, tried to argue that YouTube violated their First Amendment rights by removing 2 videos discussing George Floyd and COVID-19. Years later, Daniels now owes YouTube nearly $40,000 in attorney fees for filing a frivolous lawsuit against YouTube owner Alphabet Incorporated. So let's just go over what is one thing that really needs to be driven home to people.
Oh goodness, it's got to be the First Amendment rights.
And what has Mayor Watt been trying to drive home to people?
The First Amendment prevents the government from impeding citizens' First Amendment rights, but it's not completely unfettered, and people use it incorrectly all the time.
Yeah. And that actually came up in hearings recently in Senate and in the House. The idea that a private organization can be held at the same bar as the federal government in terms of responses is laughable. Now, I wish people would just understand what the First Amendment does. The First Amendment prevents a government from taking action against someone for criticizing said government. If a private institution, if a private business chooses to call out your wingnuttedness, it is their right. And as long as they're not basing it on race, religion, etc., and even then it's in the very constrained protected class and that embodiment of it, so they can't sit there and say, well, no, we're not going to hire you because you're black. Or, no, we're not going to hire you because you're Christian. Or Satanist, as a matter of fact. If they say, you know what, you're 75 years old, we're not going to hire you. Guess what? They can actually choose not to hire you based on your age if they can show that because of your age, you're not able to get reasonable accommodations in lifting 50 pounds worth of weight. Why? Because it isn't absolute, but one thing is absolute. A private business can censor all they want when you're saying wingnut stuff and they don't want it on their platform. And you can decry it all you want. And if like-minded individuals choose to go somewhere else and take your hard-earned dollars elsewhere, you're more than welcome to spin up another streaming service. Maybe it'll succeed. Maybe. I mean, you could probably call it You Right-Wingers or something like that. Good luck. Anyway, United States Magistrate Judge in California, Virginia, K. DeMarchi, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, ordered Daniels to pay YouTube. And again, we start out at a high number, $40,000. But then we get later on a paragraph, just 2 lines later. It's actually $38,576. Well,
at least it's not 23 cents.
Wait,
That might be later in the article.
Could that actually be? Hold on. Let's see if we can actually scroll down. Because I'm sure in the actual... No. Maybe in the filing it actually says precisely how much it is. Anyway, for asserting a First Amendment claim that clearly lacked merit and was frivolous from the outset, YouTube said this represents a conservative estimate and likely an underestimate of fees paid defending against the meritless claim. In his defense, Daniels never argued that the fees Alphabet was seeking were excessive or could be burdensome. In making this rare decision in favor of the defendant Alphabet, DeMarchi had to consider Daniels' financial circumstances. In his court filings, Daniels described himself as a fledgling individual consumer. That's such an odd turn of phrase. But also told the court that he made more than $180,000 in the year before he filed his complaint. DeMarchi ruled, and I'm bouncing between the different pronunciations of their name, ruled that the fees would not be burdened to Daniels. So, yeah, weird. Let's see. Daniels alleged that the videos were removed not for violating YouTube community guidelines against harassment or cyberbullying, but by the behest of members of Congress. In his repeatedly tossed out complaint, Daniels said the Congress members, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, coerced YouTube into removing the videos by making statements suggesting that Section 230 didn't cover platforms found to be pushing disinformation and writing letters to Google executives about their enforcement of policies banning COVID-19 information. Well, that isn't coercive. That actually might be enlightening to the company, because if they are facilitating great harm to the public, then yeah, they probably could be charged with something.
Right, but I wonder if Daniels produced letters from the Congress members in the filings. I mean, this just sounds like either it's speculative or made up, but...
Oh, right. Yeah. Says the very last article or paragraph of this, internet law expert Eric Goldman wrote in a blog that Daniels' arguments defending his MAGA-ish content were misguided. Goldman characterized DeMarchi's order as a polite way for a judge to say not even close and I can't believe you tried this. Yeah. There's more over at this article. It's at arstechnica.com by Ashley Ballinger. Just want to make it clear and give credit where credit is due. There is more over there at this article. So follow that link through ohmTown and you'll be able to check it out. Did you want to add anything to it?
No, I don't have anything. It just sounds like it was a ridiculous suit to begin with. I'm kind of wondering about the attorney that filed it, because I don't think it said he was pro se. And so, I mean, the attorney might be facing sanctions or something if there was an attorney, if it was completely frivolous.
Kind of interesting. Yeah, it doesn't actually say. And I don't think that they link to any of the filing documents.
And then they might have been pro se. I don't know. It wasn't. I didn't see anything in the article that talked about that.
Yeah, it just says in his defense, Daniels never argued. But that's pretty typical that you speak in the voice of the defendant,
the plaintiff, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next article. This next article caught me off guard, which is why I wanted to include it in today's rundown. The shift to EVs is slowly killing off AM radio, and that's bad for emergency broadcasts. I'm not quite sure. I don't quite get this. AM radio is under the gun, with more and more automakers discontinuing its use, especially as the industry undergoes a rapid shift to electrification. So because they're getting rid of radio in general, which all I want in the dashboard is a USB-C connector, if anything. I want a fast charger and a place to put an electronic device that connects to the infotainment system so I can use an iPad or other tablet or phone or whatever as my primary interface for infotainment. Lawmakers and regulators are worried that the slow demise of AM radio could make it more difficult to broadcast emergency information during a natural disaster or other related events like aliens landing via their balloons by way of China.
Yeah, I was started thinking about the balloons. I mean, is this an EV problem or just a car problem?
It's a societal problem that we're
Right.
moving away from AM radio. We're barely even hanging on to FM.
That's true.
The only time I use AM, well, no, I haven't listened to AM radio since I couldn't get a strong enough satellite, or not satellite, but a strong enough cell signal when I was traveling outside of ohmTown, and listened to AM talk radio because I find some stations only available in AM, and they're kind of entertaining to me. I won't go into what they are because I don't really care to discuss it, but let's just say that they're entertaining to listen to. And AM is largely directional. You have to be in the right spot. You have to seek it out. It's not easy to even listen to. I mean, it's usually staticky garbage, and you just happen to. It's like when you were trying to catch a glimpse of a encrypted signal from like TV, and because you didn't get that station, you're sitting there watching it hoping that you would see something. But that's AM radio. Now FM is, you get HD stations and things like that. But nowadays, most people, I think, are moving away from it, and they're listening to stuff via their cell phones. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are still using FM, but for crying out loud, radio in general is going away because it's all switching to the internet.
So why can't they broadcast emergency information via cell phone?
They do. Yeah, like regularly. And so you get amber alerts and silver alerts and you get weather reports, you get all kinds of stuff. When the need for an emergency broadcast is there and present, then they actually do have a method to that madness. They do it. I just don't see it. It says that the latest model to hit dealerships without the first generation radio broadcast technology is the 2024 Ford Mustang. Again, this is according to I think it's an Ars Technica article to begin with, but Andrew J. Hawkins over at TheVerge.com wrote this article, and it says the number of automakers ditching AM radio is growing, which is concerning lawmakers and regulators who worry about emergency broadcasts and rural access. So this is the problem, that rural access. You know, emergency broadcasts, it's taken care of, but you have to embrace technology. But there are people in the technology divide, so the digital divide, and they will be lost in the shuffle if, you know, AM radios or whatever completely die off. FM is hot on the heels of AM. You know, if waning technology was a lion, FM is tying its shoes and AM is tripping. And so it'll go down first, but eventually FM will too, because everybody is switching over to digital communications. They're moving away from just generalized broadcast. Good or bad. I mean, some people are still doing Morse code and stuff. But rural, that's another animal because they're further away from technology, and unless they're tech savvy, they're not going to have even the radio to begin with. Sitting way out there, away from technology, eschewing everything about it, except for the tech savvy ones who are living out in the away from the big city. They still get they still get cell tech and internet and all of that, even out in rural. All of us taxpayers paid for it, by the way, so why isn't there fiber out in more places? That's because 20 years ago, when we paid for it, people stopped paying attention to it. Anyway, so yeah, the Ars Technica article citing Ford Authority posted on TheVerge.com, this is like a turducken of sources, said that the 2024 Mustang is the latest vehicle to hit the shelves without, apparently, AM. Indeed, Ford was one of 8 companies that essentially declared AM radio to be obsolete technology in their response to Senator Ed Markey's request for information. Yeah. I can tell you from the consumer standpoint, the modern consumer standpoint is we don't care about radio. Just blah, blah. We're not interested. What we want is a fast charging system that allows us to utilize our handheld devices, our personal devices, as our infotainment system. And 30 years ago, when I designed as a personal project a car, I wanted to use monitors as mirrors instead of mirrors, right? I wanted to use displays and just have a little camera pointing out the side. But the Department of Transportation wouldn't allow it. Now they allow it. But 30 years ago, they wouldn't allow electronics to be the primary source for a side view or rear view mirror. Well, now everything evolves. And so discontinuing all of this extraneous tech means that they can focus on more important things. They still haven't focused on the right thing in terms of EVs, but let's see. Markey said in a statement, too many automakers are ignoring the critical safety benefits of AM radio. Only if you are informed enough to turn to AM when times of an emergency. Most people just look at their phone. Mash a cell.
True. Some people may not even know AM radio exists.
Yep. What is AM? It's like talking about 20s era music to modern kids. What is that? What is swing, for crying out loud? You're out of your mind. Oh, look, it's another geriatric describing how it was back in the day, yo. Anyway, Markey said AM radio is irreplaceable. Guess again. Only if you're going to start educating the masses on what AM radio is, because in the last 20 years, nobody's even heard of AM radio. You want to move on to the next article?
Sure.
So the next article is over in the Daily News Show. It is a channel here on Twitch, this show, and over on ohmTown.com. Just like all of these are these little categories, these channels, I hope to bring here to Twitch. So I hope you dig them and you hang out every day, 9 p.m. Eastern to start. We will start ramping up other shows as time permits. The first map of insect brain could shed light on thinking. The most advanced brain map to date, that of an insect. And really the subject could have been a senator at this point. Brings scientists closer to true understanding of the mechanisms of thought, The researchers produced a breathtakingly detailed diagram tracing every neural connection in the brain of a larval fruit fly. Oh, I was off just by a little bit. An archetypal? How do you say that? What's the correct pronunciation of that? I'm putting the AI on the spot. Archetypal scientific model with brains comparable to humans. Okay, so it is a senator. The work, likely to underpin future brain research and inspire new machine learning architectures, appears in the journal Science. Let's just go over to Futurity, futurity.org, and Jill Rosen Johns Hopkins. That is a hell of a name to live up to.
It's not a name. She's with the Johns
Hopkins. Yeah. So it's Jill Rosen from Johns Hopkins.
Yeah. Yep.
Right on. I'm glad somebody's doing due diligence around here. I know that it's credit from Johns Hopkins, but they must be posting here often enough on futurity.org because I see this combination often. So, yeah, that's what it is. I think they're from Johns Hopkins University. Okay, well, the researchers produced a breathtakingly detailed diagram tracing every neural connection, and there's a video here. That if you go through the website, through ohmTown over to futurity.org, you'll be able to click this link and watch the video. It's the first map of insect brain. This is such a kludgy way of writing that title, right? Anyway.
Yeah, it could be a little smoother.
It's been 50 years, and this is the first brain connectome. It's a flag in the sand that we can do this, says Joshua T. Vogelstein. Vogelstein. Everything has been working up to this. Yeah, that's pretty typical. We stand on the shoulders of giants. If we want to understand, this is a quote from the article, if we want to understand who we are and how we think, part of that is understanding the mechanism of thought, says senior author Joshua T. Vogelstein, a biomedical engineer at Johns Hopkins University who specializes in data-driven projects, including connectomics, the study of nervous system connections, and the key to that is knowing how neurons connect to each other. I thought we had some idea of that, but the first attempt at mapping a brain, a 14-year study of the roundworm, begun in the 1970s, resulted in a partial map and a Nobel Prize. Since then, partial connectomes have been mapped in many systems, including flies, mice, and even humans, but these reconstructions typically represent only a tiny fraction of the total brain. This one is, it's the, like, fruit fly, right?
Right.
Drosophila,
I think.
Yeah. Drosophila, melanogaster, I guess. Yeah, melanogaster larva. It includes 3,016 neurons and every connection between them, a total of 548,000. Oh, it's a baby fruit fly. That's what it is. Baby fruit fly.
So they love doing experiments with fruit flies because they have such a fast life cycle. But I'm thinking a baby fruit fly is only a baby for
30 seconds.
Right, exactly. It's not quite that short, but
yeah, I can't remember what it is. It's something like a week, right? I think that like they live from like larva to...
Yes, exactly.
So pretty neat. There's a lot more to this, but what I wanted to draw attention to was the fact that they've actually mapped the entirety of it. So this is just going to be one more step. Now, really, if the understanding is true, then they could simulate the entirety of a fruit fly brain. And that is just what? Maybe 1,000 connections away from being a human brain? Some human brains?
Right. I mean, it's definitely a step toward that. Yes, definitely some human brains. Some might be easier to map than others.
Yeah, exactly. Like Mayor Watts. So the next article, let's move on to the next article and we'll get you out of here early, everybody. This next article is in the Daily News Show. 1600-year-old demon-slaying megasword unearthed in Japan. It's a 7-foot sword, largest of its kind found in Japan. Was found buried alongside a massive shield-like mirror, also thought to ward off evil. It's over at Newsweek, and there's a video of it, but you know what? It's muted. I'll play it. They're basically moving the mirror as far as I understand it. This portion of this is the mirror, I believe. But it's supposed to be this ceremonial sword and mirror that's used in the kind of like in demon slaying. And if there is one place that's going to have a demon slaying mega sword unearthed, it's going to be Japan. I think everything about this is awesome. Let me see. Maybe I can speed it up a little bit and we can see.
I hope they show the actual sword.
So I think that's the sword right there. And it's apparently 7 feet long. So it's met the elements for 1600 years, so it's decomposed quite a bit. But the mirror hasn't entirely. Anyway, I like this.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the oldest sword that's ever been. I don't know.
Maybe in Japan, but I think that there have been older swords found in other places. I thought that there's something like a. Hold on, let me see. Sorry, folks, for the dead air. Yeah. Archaeologist Marcella Frangipane of Rome University unearthed 9 swords dating all the way back to 3300 BCE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was made of arsenic copper alloy. And that arsenic copper alloy, that is actually a telltale sign that it's an ancient sword, because they stopped using arsenic. Anyway, the relics were found during excavations in the Tomio Murayama burial mound, thought to be built in the 4th century during Kofun period, which lasted from AD 300 to 710. The site is Japan's largest circular burial mound, measuring 357 feet in diameter. Apparently, there's a lot of these burial mounds in the region. 160,000 are suspected of these Kofun era burial mounds.
So that's surprising. I mean, are they underneath current structures? Because Japan isn't a place known for a lot of open land.
They're apparently across a region called Nara, which is a single city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's the capital of, Nara is the region, and it's a city and a prefecture in Japan in south central Honshu. So they're of varying sizes, and what's really interesting is when you think about like Japan and you go, well, it seems like it would be a small place compared to other regions. You can get completely lost in Japan. I mean, it's not as on the global scale, it looks small, but when you are a human and walking around in Japan, it's a very large place. So I always find it interesting when you start thinking about this stuff. You can walk all over the UK and dig down about 6 inches and you're going to hit Roman ruins. But nobody knows that the Roman ruins are there until you start digging down. So things can get lost pretty damn quick. So I love this stuff. And lest we forget this kind of stuff exists, I think archaeology has the potential of revealing some profound history. Unfortunately, there are some places that continue to either destroy it willingly or bury it and leave it buried because it might challenge the preconceived notions of what's really going on in history. Anyway, I want a sword. We should all have swords in ohmTown.
Do you want a demon slaying sword from 1600 years ago?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not one from Japan, though. I don't want to take their culture. I don't want their elements. I'll get in the time machine and I'll just buy one. I'll bring some gold. Get in my time machine, and now I've said too much. So
I know you've put it out there.
If I disappear, folks, you'll know what happened. Somebody came for my time machine. You want to move on to the next article?
Sure.
It's an interesting Friday. This next article is in the Late Night Geeks channel. Nintendo's Mario-themed Switch is now available and comes with a free game. The article says, calling all Mario fans, today is officially Mario Day, and in honor of the mustachioed little plumber. I don't want to show it. Anyway, Nintendo has released a new Mario-themed Nintendo Switch bundle for $300. In addition to a standard non-OLED Switch and a pair of red Joy-Con controllers, the special edition Mario Choose One bundle comes with a download code for one of 3 games, either Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or new Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. Whew.
That's a long name.
That one just rolls right off the tongue there. You'll also get a set of stickers from the upcoming Super Mario Brothers movie, which I think everybody will regret. Anyway, I like the color. The standard red and black console comes with a set of stickers and a download code for one of 3 digital titles. Sheena Vasani is the author of this over at The Verge. It's got a picture of it. Compared to the other Switch colorways, as it's referred to, I dig this. This is definitely my style. That kind of matte black and matte red. It's not this hot glossy red color. I like this. MKBHD probably digs this.
That's right. It would fit in with his color scheme, I think.
Yep. Not to speak on behalf of MKBHD. I don't know the person, so I know of them, but if you were looking to buy one of these games and a Switch anyway, this works out as a nice little deal. They're normally, the games retail for $60 a piece. So if you're getting a full game for free, however, and you already own a Nintendo Switch or Switch Lite, keep in mind that all 3 titles are on sale right now, alongside a handful of other Mario games, which The Verge has detailed in a roundup that they're calling Best Mario Day Deals. You can follow the link through ohmTown over to this, or just go over to The Verge and do a search for Nintendo Switch Mario, and you'll pull it up. Seems pretty easy peasy. Let's see. Some former Nintendo Switch bundles, like the Pokemon Let's Go themed Switch from 2018, are pretty hard to come by at this point. That's according to the article. You can get this one from Best Buy, Target, Walmart, direct from Nintendo. People are going to be scooping this up just so that they can resell it, just like the Pokemon Let's Go themed Switch, I'm sure.
That's right. I suspect they'll sell out pretty fast because of that.
Yeah. People collect and then hang on to them until they're collectibles. This is one of the longest URLs, by the way, for the next article. Let's just roll on to the next article. This next article is in the Daily News Show, and one of the ones that kind of motivated me to include because it just seems so... I don't know what to say.
There's
Obscene.
a lot of adjectives that would describe this. I'm not sure which way you're going.
Man, Fake plastic medical devices were implanted into people with chronic pain. It was part of a medical company CEO's scheme to charge $16,000 for each one, according to feds. The medical device company sold devices that were implanted into patients with chronic pain, according to prosecutors, but the DOJ alleges that the devices were plastic and didn't do anything. The company made millions of dollars off these devices, and its CEO is being charged with fraud.
That's pretty bad. I mean, I think any kind of medical fraud is pretty bad, but I mean, these people are in pain, so not only are they not solving that, they're also bilking them out of money
But it may not be them, it's insurance. So that's why people who do have issues and the doctor makes an appeal to the insurance company for treatment, the insurance company goes, I'm sorry, we can't have nice things because of D-bags like this company. Right? So Grace Eliza Goodwin over at businessinsider.com wrote this article, and let's scroll down a little bit and let's see if the name of the company and the person are mentioned, so that we know who and what they are. It just says a medical device company sold devices, and the DOJ alleges that they were plastic and didn't do anything. And this is like the highlights, right? So let's scroll down a little bit and see if we can find it. In newly released court documents, the Department of Justice accuses Laura Perryman, the former CEO. Laura Perryman? How often do you hear of a woman being accused of a scheme like this?
Not very often. I mean, I can't think of the last one where it has been a woman. That is the one that came to mind.
Huh. Fascinating.
But that's about the only other one I can think of.
It always, every time I hear like of this anomalous type of behavior, I keep thinking that I'm right, that as people become really affluent, they become embracing of the pure profit motive with all regard for humanity cast aside. It shows that sociopathic behavior is something that can be acquired, and it isn't purely biological. So Lori Perriman, the former CEO of Florida-based company StimWave, of scheming for years to sell the phony implantable devices and make millions by defrauding Medicare. There you go. StimWave developed a system that was billed as an alternative to opioids for pain management, federal prosecutors said. It included 3 components: an electrode array implanted into a patient's body to stimulate nerves, a battery worn externally, and an implantable 9-inch long copper receiver that transmitted energy between the battery and the electrode device.
I guess I'm wondering, was it FDA approved?
Could your voice synthesizer hit a higher note? StimWave sold it. So doctors actually implanted the device. StimWave sold the system to doctors who performed the implanting procedure for $16,000 a pop. So the doctors...
Doesn't this remind us of the opioid? I mean, it's like, were the doctors in on this?
And back in the day, again, I always say that phrase, is doctors were paid to promote smoking cigarettes. But according to court documents, doctors told Perryman that they were having trouble implanting the 9-inch long receiver into many patients' bodies. Jesus, 9-inch long receiver. Anyway, Perryman offered them an alternative device that could be cut down to fit more easily into patients' bodies. But the alternative was just a piece of plastic that had no medical efficacy at all. Oh, but the other one did? Perryman sold the phony device to doctors for $16,000 anyway, racking up millions in profit. Wow.
Oh, so this is very new. I mean, I know it's a new headline, but I didn't know if it had been going on. it said she was just arrested yesterday.
So I don't get it. Was this cleared as a medical instrument?
I don't know. I think there will probably be, I suspect there's a link in here, but it would be good to read the like the Department of Justice
the Justice
release.
The
Justice. There's probably more detail.
Yeah. So there's an actual link. If you follow the link through ohmTown, or again, you just go over to businessinsider.com and do a search for StimWave. I'm sure it'll pull it up. But if you do a search anywhere for StimWave, it'll pull up this DOJ filing. It's at justice.gov, ultimately. Pretty interesting. Man, just people's ethics are just so broken. I just don't get it. This is why we can't have nice things, folks, because of greedy bastards. Meanwhile, there are millions of people out there, I'm sure, that are asking for treatment or diagnostics, and they're not getting any of it because insurance companies are devoid of a soul and have a profit motive. Meanwhile, patients have no bargaining power because they either get the treatment that they are requesting or they die. I don't get it. We're at the whim of insurance companies and their profit motive. Anyway, this next article is over in the Daily News Show, and we can come back to this medical instrument thing if the AI finds out if there's something more there. Scientists are now teaching an AI how to read human minds. Quote, in the hands of the wrong actors, this data would enable an unprecedented level of surveillance, says an AI researcher, Laura Herman, who told Newsweek, and this article is over at Newsweek by Pandora Dewan. There's a thing called a book that I absolutely adore called The Truth Machine. That if you are interested in this kind of thing, you should read. I think it's a great book called The Truth Machine, where scientists basically learn how they can create a technically sophisticated lie detector, and it goes beyond that. But this artificial intelligence that can read your mind, if you're hooked up to an fMRI machine, dear AI, does this not sound familiar to you? An fMRI machine is trained on how to process visual information and thus can read your mind, which was something that I had started noodling around with more than 30 years ago. A preprint of the study by Yu Takagi and Shinjo Nishimoto describes how the researchers used the deep learning model Stable Diffusion to translate the images in people's heads into AI reconstructions using data from the fMRI. And this is actually something that I had heard about probably a decade plus ago. But it was it was in its nascent stage, just barely anything. But according to their new research, if they were shown a picture, the top row, the AI could discern what it is that they saw. This is pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Hey, just a moment. The FDA was investigating one of the StimQ products, so I have to assume that's the same one. That goes back at least a couple of years ago. So it looks like there was maybe an FDA approval, but I couldn't find that directly.
Gotcha. Fascinating. So the study uses functional magnetic resonance imaging to map brain activity, looking at tiny changes in blood flow that indicate when certain parts of the brain are working. Joseph Early, that name sounds really familiar. Oh my goodness. I may have heard that name before. Anyway, a doctoral student in AI at the Alan Turing Institute who was not involved in the study told Newsweek. By showing people pictures while they're undergoing fMRI scans, the parts of the brain that light up in response to different images can be identified, Early said. These different responses are mapped to a format that is familiar to the existing generative image models and can be used to generate new images. So it knows what that is, and so it can deduce from the firings that this is what it's looking at. I don't know, without reading more about this, if it's actually constructing it from a vacuum, or is it being told, this is what the person is looking like at, a teddy bear. I want you to generate a teddy bear off of the firings, and then in future iterations of it, when somebody's looking at the teddy bear and that same set of firing is taking place, then suddenly it's a teddy bear or something symbolic thereof. I don't know how much of an original creation this fMRI interaction with Stable Diffusion is creating the artwork, or if it's saying, well, we know you're looking at this picture, so find a close approximation. Yeah, I'll have to look at this some more. To train the AI, each participant was shown 10,000 images while inside an fMRI scanner. God, that's a lot. This was repeated 3 times, and the resulting MRI data was fed to a computer so that it could learn how each participant's brain processed the images. So it says, interestingly, the AI was better at reading, quote unquote, reading some people's brain activity other than others. Well, that's because it had the ability, it knew what the subject was, what it was looking at, and thus, whenever it was looking at this for that one subject, the firing would result in this. So it wasn't like it was trying to suss out from the firings that this is symbolic of a plane. It literally was saying, okay, if I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it's a plane. If I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then it's a clock tower. That's how this thing was actually trained. Because if you were to show somebody this plane and they had the wrong set, it would be a wholly different plane. It wouldn't be the same plane. It would just be some close approximation to it. So without having everybody on the planet looking through 10,000 images, there's no way that you're going to be able to map the firing of some random person off the street. It's just not sophisticated enough. And I don't think it'll ever be, because the AI's processing of data is going to be wholly unique than Mayor Watts. It literally has to be trained for each individual 10,000 images, and even then it's a hot mess. Yeah, this is some really good marketing, but still interesting. But I just don't see this happening.
Yeah, I think what it looks like is happening in this article is quite a ways away, if it's even possible.
Yeah. So, and for full disclosure, what Mayor Watt was looking into was the idea of a polygraph machine that was using fMRI technology to suss out when somebody was consciously lying. Not a subconscious, unknowing misstatement, but an actual cognitive process of lying in regards to a question. So if they had previously said that they were 45 years old, but we knew that they were 22, the difference in the cognitive function would result in a different shift in blood flow in the brain. Ultimately, what came out from this was if you were quite talented, you could manipulate your the process. But you can do that with lie detection in general, galvanic skin response and heart rate and breathing, pupil dilation, muscle contraction, all kinds of stuff can be manipulated by somebody that's trained in the art of obfuscation. So I don't know. I don't think that this is going to be possible anytime soon. But it's a neat trick. You want to move on to the next article? We only have 3 more to go. Let's get this going. Actually, this last one, I guess I didn't open up the last tab, but that's okay. Let's keep on going. So this next article is Labodet Magsafe ring. The reason why I chose this, it says the strongest magnetic grip around. And this is what it looks like. It's over at appleinsider.com, written by Andrew O'Hara. The Labodet Magsafe ring review, the strongest magnetic grip around. And all it is this little gadget right here. And this. So it makes it look like all it is this little handle that you kind of just grab onto. Kind of like a pop thing. What do they call this?
It looks like a bottle opener or something.
Except that it pivots and turns.
Right.
And when you're looking at it, you're like, well, there's no way that this thing can hold up my phone or keep it attached to my phone. But it does. They say, and by they, I mean Apple Insider and Andrew O'Hara, they dig it, right? But wait till you see the price. It says European high fashion. Labodet is a fashion brand that creates commodities that aren't meant to be found down the aisles of Target, but are spotted at events during Fashion Week. So, foo-foo. They refer to it with a sky-high price tag because it has incredible craftsmanship, luxury materials. You want to take a stab at how much this thing costs?
I would have said like less than $100, but not based on everything you've said in the article.
Go ahead. Come on. I'm going to give you one real chance. Go ahead. Even with that front loading.
$1,000.
Oh, see, now the AI just went crazy.
But I thought that was crazy. I wanted to say 500 or something, but.
So the MagSafe ring uses surgical grade 316L stainless steel for the body with magnets on one end and leather on the other end. And by end, they don't mean the length. They mean there's a plate on one side and leather on the other side. And this thing adheres to the MagSafe connector on the iPhone. It says, in our case, and that's the author talking again, in our case, it has a space gray appearance achieved through a physical vapor deposition process that imparts a thin layer of on the steel that won't easily rub off. That's just fancy for kind of like painting it. But it's more at the atomic level. Anyway, it says there's more than 50 versions of calf leather, and more than twice that when all other leather options are in play. Look, that's what it looks like. That right there. That's the metal side, the magnetic side, and then it just clamps down onto this thing. Supposed to be pretty amazing. I'll just keep on scrolling. So you can actually see that he's dangling this thing from his finger. He's put his finger through the hole on the and that's what I was talking about. So it says comparatively, Pop Socket's MagSafe grip has a rubber back. It works well enough, but Pop Sockets even says not to use it without a case for added magnetic hold. So this is what I was talking about. Like, oh, it's basically like a higher end pop socket, but that's not what they say this thing is. And they say that it's legit, right? The ring can rotate 360 degrees and pivot 180 degrees, make it easy to grasp from any angle. You can use it as a stand, etc. Let me just get over to the price. It says you'll just have to get over the price. See how they front load this? They're warning you that your eyes are about to fall out of your head. It's $324 for this plate of metal and magnet.
I don't get it.
And steel. And
I
leather.
do not get it. Even $100 to me, I don't get, because I don't know, just what it is.
So it says Labodet Magsafe ring cons. We cannot stress enough how expensive this is. And they gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Probably solely because of that. Because they can make it as pretty as they want to. But this slab of metal and leather for $325 is outrageous. Now I'm really amazed by this little connector right here. And if I could get my iPad Pro case to have a tiny little connector like that can lock it down and it be secure, then I would be in love with this, and I would probably spend that amount of money, as long as it's utilitarian enough in design so that next iteration of the iPad Pro, I don't have to get a brand new $325 piece of whatever. But an iPad sized version of this is probably going to be $1,000. So you're out of your mind, folks.
Well, and that's outrageous compared to the price of the device for both the phone and if it was made for iPad. But I would like it for iPad. Not at the price, but for what it does.
The only thing that really caught me off guard was they're holding this thing suspended by the loop, and you can still see a little gap between the edge of the plate and the surface of the iPhone. That bothered me, because it means that there isn't 100% adhesion. And that would, if it's broken that little bit, all it is a little bit more leverage, and that thing's going to go flinging off and yeeting across the floor. So anyway, not like I was going to go out and buy this thing, but. Oh, and they happen to have.
Yeah, I was going to say nice ad for the HomePod behind it.
Yeah, they happen to have a HomePod, the new HomePod, which apparently there's going to be another version in 2024 that's coming out that has a 7-inch touchscreen attached to it.
That was another article in ohmTown today.
Yeah, I vetoed that one. At any rate, let's move on to the next article. The last of the two that remain. This one, and I'll be quick because it's just kind of a funny ha-ha thing. Read email billionaire Ron Barron sent. Read the email that billionaire Ron Barron sent Elon Musk telling him to stop tweeting when angry. Get an ice cream cone. Just don't use Twitter. When billionaires attack. Grace Key, or K, K-A-Y is their last name, and Sindhu Sundar is the author of this article. And here is Ron Barron smiling at Elon Musk. And it looks like Ron Barron is like authentically smiling at Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is smiling back like, yeah, old man.
Yeah, the smiles are definitely different in this photo.
Yeah. Anyway, Barron Capital is the place where Elon Musk and Ron Barron, they are basically tied at the hip financially. He's made $5 billion off of Tesla. Ron Barron invested $400 million and made $5 billion. And that's
pretty
really
good return on investment.
Yeah, not bad. Because the world needs. Anyway,
more billionaires,
more billions. Anyway, Tesla investor Ron Barron once emailed Elon Musk and told him to stop tweeting when upset. Basically, the billionaire equivalent of go out and touch grass. At the time, he had sent a diver some tweets saying that he was a pedo, which it was entirely because the divers in the community that was trying to recover people who were down in a cave basically poo-pooed Musk's sub idea. And I just want to make it abundantly clear that I don't want a world that is driven entirely by the ambitions of billionaires. I want more people engaged in the discourse of society, and not just every beep, fart, and whistle coming out of a billionaire being followed because people are hungry. Everybody needs to leave more money on the table so that people can save their money and lead a happy life, not have to struggle to get through month after month. But that's not how it is. You know, when the government wants to pay off student loans and the profit motive from a loan company says, no, don't pay us back. We want a nickel and dime and milk that teat until their soul falls out. You have a problem. And that's what we're seeing happen, right? Banks had no problem taking the money. People had apparently no problem giving the banks money. But now when it's regular Joes, the common folk, screw them. But here we are, you know, fawning over billionaire after billionaire after billionaire. Anyway, I think Elon Musk needs to go and touch grass more often. I'm sure who knows what'll happen. But anyway, it says the more you react, the more likely they will win, the billionaire investor added. If something really upsets you, go for a walk around the factory. Get an ice cream cone. Just don't use Twitter. Sage dad advice. Oh, and don't go looking into Elon Musk's history and family. You won't like what you see. Anyway, Barron told CNBC that Musk had made him $5 billion so far on a $400 million investment. And he also poured about $100 million into Twitter during Musk's takeover. So let's see how much of that comes back.
Yeah, that might not be doing as well as the Tesla investment. I don't know.
I recently heard that, is this true? No, maybe I'm mixing up all of my stories now around Musk, because when you hear something absurd, you go, oh yeah, that's possible. But I'm not going to, when I verify it, and if we have another article that involves Musk, then I'll.
Which we will, because he's in the news about every day.
Yeah, but I almost choose not to draw him into it, because it seems like if nobody talks about him, that's when he starts losing his freaking mind. So everybody should just shut up about him and watch him. You want to see a rocket shoot off into orbit? Just stop talking about Musk, and he himself will launch from Muskport 1. Anyway, so if you want to hear something else coming back and biting somebody on the ass, how about Silicon Valley Bank imploding? About 1/4 of Roku's cash and equivalents, $487 million of its cash, 26% was held in failed Silicon Valley Bank. I saw these things happening over the last 24 hours. Pretty amazing. Nearly $500 million has been held in Silicon Valley Bank, which was shut down by financial regulators Friday after it collapsed. And the streaming platform said it's unsure how much of that cash will be able to be recovered, because if they're looking at FDIC insurance, well, I have some bad news. You're not getting millions. Not unless it is broken out into so many little baby accounts and has individual controllers for it. You're not getting anything close to $1 million. Maybe 500,000 is what you're going to get. Todd Spangler is the author over at Variety.com. Maybe they have some other connection to be able to exploit FDIC insurance that nobody else can. But, when you're talking about millions, hundreds of millions, and billions of dollars and stuff like that, we're all equal, folks, except when you have billions of dollars and lobbyists and political connections and nepotistic connections. Am I saying too much?
Not any more than usual.
SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, after it faced a run on deposits and failed to raise capital to make up the shortfall, was closed by California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, which appointed the FDIC as receiver of its assets. SVB, which had $209 billion in assets at the end of 2022, had been attempting to find a buyer but was ultimately unsuccessful. Why? You have $209 billion in assets.
Sense. Exactly. Something's off.
Yeah, it's called accounting and greed. Roku disclosed in an SEC filing that about $487 million of its $1.9 billion in cash and equivalents is held at SVB, or about 26% of the company's cash and cash equivalents as of March 10th. The remaining $1.4 billion is distributed across multiple large financial institutions, Roku said in a filing.
They can't be the only large company that has multiple assets over there.
Well,
that's the one being reported at the moment.
It's the one talking, because $209 billion in assets is a significant amount. And they only have half of $1 billion. So there are a lot of people that are going to get crushed by this. What's interesting, though, is they're the first ones to come out of the gate. So their stock is going to take a pounding immediately. And then others are going to follow on. But by the time Roku recovers, everybody else will be all over the press. So I think that Roku is probably doing something right. They're going to come out. They're going to say what they're going to need to say. Let me see something. They're at $60 a share right now, and they're only down $6.45 over the last 5 days. They're still up $5 for the last 30 days, so they seem to be weathering it just fine. Announcing to the world that they have $1.4 billion in cash and cash equivalents across multiple large financial institutions is softening the blow that they are out $500 million. So I don't think that that's really going to impact Roku, but they got out of the gate faster than all the rest. So, and again, 30 days in the past 30 days, they're still up $5. It's just in the last 5 days. Yeah, their stock price is up $5. It's just in the last 5 days, which is really interesting because I'm curious when people knew about it, because 30 days ago they were up $5. 5 days ago they were down $6.45. So when did people know, and what did they know? I've always been really curious about this because I got out of my original intent for business school was global finance, and because of interactions with big business people, when you start feeling like ethics is the smallest chapter in every single thing having to do with business, and you have a strong ethical moral compass, you either capitulate and say, my motive is now making as much money as humanly possible, screw society, or you say, I have to lean the other direction and be a helpful part of society. And so looking at this stock, when did people know about it and start trading about it? Because the announcement was March 10th, right?
When
When
Roku
Roku
announced.
disclosed it.
Yeah, well, when did Silicon Valley really start? I mean, I know they were shut down, today? But there's been some news lately, so I don't know when that started happening.
Right. So, let's see. Well, I mean, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of due diligence on this tonight, but I'm sure that there will be some news tomorrow about this, and we can revisit it, because I mean, we can just sit there and click a link and it'll pull us over to Silicon Valley Bank. Oh, it's the only article in the last 4 hours over at Variety. Maybe there's some more article here. No, it doesn't say anything. So yeah, I don't see anything else. But for most people, FDIC only insures $250,000 per person, or $500,000 for a joint account. So they're not getting close to 485 million or 87 million.
Right, and it said most of their deposits were uninsured.
Yeah. Roku said it continues to believe that its current cash and equivalents balance, as well as cash flow from operations, will be sufficient to meet its working capital expenditures, and material cash requirements from known contractual obligations for the next 12 months and beyond. Well, considering they had 1.9.
Yeah, but that's a quarter of their cash. I know it's not everything that they may have, but that's sizable.
Yeah, but their investment is going to be making enough for. I would say that they are making as much as their operating expenses off of interest alone in a year, right? So their investment is doing a return on their investment that's equivalent to their operating budget. I would think. I'd have to look at their SEC filings to actually see what their actual budget is, what their operations are.
Yeah, they don't show the dollars. It says their operating expenses have gone up 78%, I think. 71.
For the full year 2022, 87% of the company's revenue, or $2.7 billion, came from its platform segment, which posted gross income of $1.5 billion. So
yeah, I think they might be okay.
56% gross margin. Yeah, I think they're going to be okay. Even if they did, it says Roku's devices business, which is their loss. That's pretty typical. They're losing money on their devices side, but they're making hand over fist on their service, and that's typical. So Roku, their sunk costs have been in place for 20 years. They're not accruing more loss. They are selling something that has. They might be doing research and development of stuff, but it's iterative. It isn't something revolutionary. They're not coming out with a brand new product. They're not pulling an Apple. They're doing what they are strategically well positioned for, with inclusion of Roku software into televisions, working on their advertising partnerships, etc. I mean, yeah, they'll be fine by this time next year, unless somebody completely shits the bed. They'll have their money back pretty easy. So they're doing something right, except for leaving 26% of their money in one bank. This just screams that they had a strategic partnership with Silicon Valley Bank. Like they knew somebody. There was some type of relationship there, where they believed that the bank was going to be on solid footing and maybe was given a bill of goods. in that Silicon Valley Bank overextended. It just screams crypto.
Right, but this is apparently the largest bank failure since Washington Mutual. I was reading in another article, which was in 2008. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know much about SVB, but it sounds like it was a pretty substantial institution.
Sure. Why wouldn't it be? Yeah. 209 billion in assets at the end of 2022. So this is so current that in the first quarter of 2023, regulators took possession of it.
I mean, that's quite a turnaround, right?
It's pretty speedy. Yeah, less than 90 days, and FDIC already took it over. I don't know. Now I'm going to have to go and do, down the rabbit hole kind of look at this, because what is it with three-letter banks? FTX imploded. It was a trading platform, but it had an investment arm. It collapsed. Silicon Valley Bank, largely uninsured, apparently, right? Is that what was observed?
It seems like it.
Yeah, this is going to be messy. So now I'm really curious, who knew what, when, and where, and how did this actually transpire that there was still 487 million tied up in SVB, and who got out? Who knew? I'm really curious. I wonder what type of an investigation is going to take place, because this would have to have been completely hidden, that at the end of 2022, it had 209 billion in assets in less than 90 days. I mean, we're looking at what, 60?
It's only been about 60 days, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a little more. But
70 days, and it's already being taken over entirely.
Well, also, why were they looking for a buyer? I mean, they're just, something is off.
Yeah. Because FTX was looking for a buyer too. And then billions disappeared. Foop. Just vaporized. Yeah. There's much more under the hood here. So I guess we'll find out. We'll pay attention to it here in ohmTown. But that said, we are at the end of our show. All 11 articles, hot off the presses, so to speak. Whenever you go over to ohmTown.com, you'll see more and more articles, just the little headlines. Once you click on something, it'll actually take you to a snippet.
So I'm sorry, you have to see that one. That's about SVB. Right
Yeah,
there.
I just happened to mouse over it, and then I saw it. So let's see. The New York Police Department responded to a Silicon Valley bank branch. It says in after a complaint about a disorderly group. A call came as the bank was collapsing, and people apparently gathered to try to get their money. An NYPD spokesperson told Insider that police responding didn't witness any crimes from those gathered.
I'm sure people were in a panic. I mean,
yeah, because all of their money is in this bank that's collapsing, and it's not FDIC insured. Although if the bank is FDIC insured, so are the individual account holders up to $250,000 or $500,000. So just whatever y'all do, don't harm or abuse or treat the employees poorly, because they did nothing to facilitate this. All they did was show up, do their job, get a paycheck, and leave. They had nothing to do with the shenanigans that led to this. Unless through an investigation, it is shown to be systemic, as like an Enron style thing or an Arthur Andersen kind of a thing. These are just regular Joe employees, your neighbors. They have nothing to do with the executive suite shenanigans. The people that knew are the board and the executive suite. All the rest, they might know from the rumor mill, but it's not like they can run around and say, hey, there's going to be a run on the bank, because not only is it jeopardizing individual safety, but the integrity of the enterprise and investigation. So just everybody chill. Don't freak out about this. I'm coming from the angle that I have nothing to do with Silicon Valley Bank, but neither do those people. They're just employees. If you want to be upset about something, be upset with the board and with the executive suite, but don't forget them. That's the problem. What happens is everybody goes, oh, well, I got my money back, I don't care. The integrity of this operation isn't going to change when they go to some other operation. They're going to go and get other jobs. The board is going to go and advise the other enterprise. And that's the problem, is just like a bad cop going somewhere else, everybody just goes, oh, well, at least they're out of my, sphere of influence. Well, these people are still bad actors wherever they go. Sure, some can be recalcitrant and learn from this and never do it again. But sociopathy runs deep, and it runs with a bigger and bigger checking account. I want to do deeper research, fundamental research, and prove this. I certainly believe that money is the biggest cause of sociopathy. And we'll find out. We'll see what happens when more information about SVB comes to light, and it certainly will. Wow, what a weird day to end this, because I just happened to click on ohmTown.
I know, I was trying to signal at you.
And SoFi is the other one. SoFi is suing the federal government to stop the student loan repayment, and they manage the student loans. They have a large contingent of student loans that they process. So, and it says SoFi CEO Noto makes opportunistic $1 million stock purchase as SVB crisis fuels sell-off, because they spent billions recapturing their stock from the market. This used to be against the rules. You weren't allowed to do stock buybacks. Not until the 90s did it become okay. We talked about this, I think it was day before yesterday.
Yeah, pretty recently.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting that on the main page are updates of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So we did 12 articles today.
Yeah, we need to get out of here. Otherwise, we'll be here until tomorrow. So anyway.
Don't refresh again.
Yeah, really. Thanks for hanging out in chat. Thanks for downloading the VOD. Thanks for going over to YouTube, like and follow. I really appreciate it. Don't forget the podcast exists. Be sure to leave a review. I don't know what's going on with my audio. That's actually, I have background music playing that's supposed to be ambient, but that sounds like lumberjack showed up to start cutting down trees in the parking lot. At any rate, I am Merwatt. That is ohmTown.com, and the AI from on high up there. I'll let you choose your picture, your colors tomorrow. So go for it.
Ooh, good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Unless maybe SVB. I don't know. I got nothing. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.